Welcome and welcome back to Insightful Healing. I'm Amira. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, whether you're catching me live or watching it back. I'm glad you made it here. I'm so glad you made it here. Today's going to be an interesting session. I could already feel that from yesterday, and it's been confirmed in these intuitive messages. But let's set the energy first and foremost. So typically I do just a pretty basic grounding exercise of connecting the mind to the body to the breath. Today, glasses off. Today I want to do some alternate nostril breathing. You can follow along with me if you so choose, or you can just observe whatever feels good and right in your spirit and soul. Um, with my hand, I'm going to make what's called a Surya Mudra. Okay. Um, it's a mudra that supports digestion. Oh gosh, don't get me to line. I can't remember what the other benefits are, but this is the way that I learned it, specifically in yoga. And so your thumb, typically it's the right hand, your thumb and ring finger come together, right? So that leaves pointer, middle, and your pinky loose, okay? And then the pointer finger and middle finger will go to the third eye, and we're going to use the thumb and the pinky to support our nostrils, all right? And in that nostril support, I'm going to cover the right nostril with my thumb, leaving the left nostril exposed. I will inhale for a 4 count. After that 4 count, I'll switch my fingers. I'll release my thumb from the right nostril, close my left nostril with the pinky, and exhale out of the other nostril. Okay. Lots and lots of directions. For those of you who are more visual learners, again, you can either just observe or follow along with me. I don't have a particular number of breaths in mind. I will just simply keep going until it feels right. I mean, I won't be doing it forever, but just until it feels right. As always, if you're able to, or if you are joining me, um, feet planted on the surface beneath you, again, if you're able to. And we'll begin. I appreciate those of you who were brave enough to join in with me in whatever space you're in, if it felt safe. Typically, it is something that can impact it is impacting the nervous system. It's meant to impact it in a positive way, but it can also make you dizzy. Okay, so just be mindful of that. I certainly should have said that before we started breathing in and out, but here we are. Whew. Okay. Let's get into these intuitive messages. I was gonna just start off by asking you guys to call attention. Oh, hi Brantley. I said it in my head, not out loud. Hi Brantley, thanks for joining. Call attention to where you were this time last year. It is July 31st. I don't even know how it came to be July already. It's pretty insane. Tomorrow is August already. Not only have we gone through so many seasons, right? You've also, I'm sure, gone through many, many seasons in your life. Life, death, transition, high moments, low moments, moments in between where you had to keep your balance. And so I want to just do a little moment of reflection to think back on where you were literally this day, maybe even this exact time last year. I'm the kind of person who puts lots of things in my calendar. I've it's lessened, okay, as time has gone on. I used to keep an actual planner and literally write the smallest things in there just so that I could remember key things and tie them to particular dates. But this time last year for me was the last day in my last space, in my last individual space. And it was a time of transition, a time of gratitude, a time of change, a time of anxiously stepping out into a new journey, stepping out literally into a new culture and environment, a new state. And a lot has occurred between then and now. But even just to look back at that particular date and what occurred and this particular date, what has already occurred. It's only 1:00 where I am in the afternoon. I'm feeling really grateful and also kind of pointing my finger at the universe a little bit. But that's my first little nudge for our session today, session 56. Where were you this time last year? And then as I was coming up with that question and beginning to reflect on it myself, so grateful for Google upgrading and letting me hum random songs and it knowing what the heck I'm humming without knowing all the words or the entirety of the tune. And so I was able to do that today because that's all I was getting was the tune. And the song was Bad Moon Rising. It is a song from way back in 1969 by Creedence Clearwater Revival. And I have lots of words and facts and things written down, that may resonate with you personally or resonate with the circumstances or resonate with our session today in some kind of way. Right now, they don't make complete sense to me, but we're going to work them out together and use our discernment. Hi, Mimi. Thanks for joining. So 1969 was 57 years ago. And this song in particular, Bad Moon Rising, it speaks of a sense of impending doom, a sense of impending disaster, or specifically an apocalypse that is on the rise. And I'm sure there are many ways that we can relate that to what's happening in our current society, right? Lots of different examples that could be drawn there. And it speaks specifically to the level of anxiety and social unrest that was being experienced during that time frame. And so I wrote down some things that were occurring specifically in the 1960s. The Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, both in 1968. Also, a general rejection of traditional norms by the younger generation. So it was called counterculture and the generation gap. And then lots of movements regarding equality and recognition, like equality for women, equality and recognition for gay and lesbian folks, and that sort of activism. So a lot was going on back then. Hi, Adriana. Thanks for joining. A lot was going on back then. And this song, I mean, it was pretty intense. Even the group itself was pretty intense. The research that I did on the group itself, they had some challenges. At the beginning of it was the guy, I don't remember his name, but he signed the contract and maybe he didn't fully read through it or didn't understand it or didn't have the support to translate it in a way that his mind could understand it. And so that is definitely something to call to our attention. If you're reading through contracts, okay, read them, please read it. I know we often have a habit of blind faith, blind trust, or belief, but we have to consider what is beneath that trust, what is beneath that belief. What are you believing in? What are your intentions and that other entity's intentions, right? What's the word that I'm looking for? Values is one, yes, but I can't think of the word. But it's like, what are the things that you are responsible for, right? That are ultimately impacted from your signature on that contract, and then what are the things that other person is responsible for, or could be impacted by the signature on that contract? Those are two different things. Some of those align, and some of them are the same interests. Thank you, somebody. Okay, you guys have two different interests, and so that doesn't mean that you cannot trust that person, that government agency, that job, or it could be something so simple like buying a lawnmower, okay, or leasing. Okay, you could be signing a lease today, or here coming up soon, whatever it is. All right, just read through it and ensure that you are covered. CYA, right? Because again, your interests are different than that other person's interests or that other group's interests. Something to be mindful of. Read through the contract. When this person either didn't read through or couldn't read through, whatever the case was, it ultimately that he signed away the rights to the music. And so all of the music that they had created and was produced, they did not have rights to their own music. And so that caused the whole war, if you will, with that group and with the agencies that they were tied to. It caused a rift between siblings in particular. Okay, for some of you this could be a sibling relationship or a sibling like relationship that we're speaking to, because a contract doesn't have to be a physical piece of paper. It's just simply like a meeting of the minds. This is also making me think of court, right? You could be experiencing some kind of court related situation or court documents. Again, read through them, but also like in the court space and in the courtroom, a contract could be a text message, a contract could be verbal as well. It's just a matter of a meeting of minds. If this person says this is what we agreed to, these were the terms, that other person says yes, this is what we agreed to, and those were the terms, that is the binding contract. And so the court is going to go off of that. So be mindful of what you agree to, be clear on the terms, be clear on what your intentions are, be clear on what your interests are as well, and what you're investing your time and energy into. Okay. Yeah, because that sibling relationship or rivalry, they wound up having this ongoing resentment, even still to the end. I can't remember what year they tried to get the remaining living members back together to perform somewhere, and they refused. They literally refused. They weren't able to come back together and resolve. But this is what happens, right, when we let resentment build. You know, it goes from one thing to another thing to another thing. And when we don't address those things, it builds. And then it just becomes this smorgasbord of how do we even begin to try to address it or resolve the conflict. I actually was having this conversation recently with someone, with a client of mine, and talking about the process of building evidence or gaining information. And I can't remember exactly the words I used or how I put it. But that's what we were talking about, right? Over a few months span, they were gaining information about a contract, right, with a particular person. And, you know, they gained one piece of information and it's like, that doesn't really sit right, you know? And it's like, what do you do with that information? Do you address it right then and there? Are you ready to bring it to the courtroom? Do you put it in your back pocket, as I like to say, and then address it when the time is right? Depending upon, you know, that other person's schedule, your schedule, the amount of emotional availability, whatever those contingencies are. Do you create a list in your back pocket so that you can then be spiteful sometime in the future and just get them back in a negative way? Like, what do you do with that information that you gain? Interesting. And then I heard bad omen. That actually happened when I dropped my pen, so I don't know if that is a bad omen. I don't know. Maybe for some of you it is, or that's something that you believe in. I have no idea. With all of that, I was like, Spirit, what? Why are we talking about the bad moon rising and Creedence Clearwater Revival? Again, there's a lot of connections there and all those words that I just said, but I wanted to pull a tarot card to just get more information. The Eight of Pentacles came out and the Judgment card's here at the bottom of the deck. Again, Judgment is about Judgment Day. It says, like, I have all the information I need and I'm ready to make a judgment. The judge has to go over the facts. The facts have to be presented, and the judge makes a determination based upon their facts and their common sense, as they put it, and body language. Like, lots of things are involved. But the Eight of Pentacles, it's Virgo. It's Sun in Virgo, and it's an opportunity for clarity, for healing, for cleansing. But the Eight of Pentacles is someone who doesn't allow themselves to be distracted by outside noise, right? This is like, I'm focusing on watering what I'm growing. I'm focusing on, you know, what's pouring back into me. And I'm focusing on finishing this project so that I can be stable, sturdy, and independently stand. And so that is a part of what we need to focus on here with regard to this message. That was a lot. Well, let's pull some cards. Let's get the sense of self deck in here and see how we can expand upon this. Is that a bad omen, y'all? Dropping your pen? I don't know. I guess lots of things could be identified as bad omens. It really is just, I feel like it has to do with what you believe, no? All right. I see a bad moon rising. Also, what is a bad moon? What is a bad moon? The different moons have different names. Okay, Thunder. Okay. I guess there's such thing as a bad moon. Different moons have different names. I don't know that I would refer to any of them as bad, but that could be a nickname for one of the different moons. I think this one right now that we're experiencing is the buck moon. Okay, another B letter. B, the letter B may be significant, or the number 2. Um, but yeah, I'm curious, like what would be classified as a bad moon? I mean, full moons in general are a challenging time because they expand our awareness and they convict us to release things, you know. But bad is a perceptive thing, is it not? Just like I was talking about yesterday. Healthy versus unhealthy, it's perceptive. Number 24 reduces to a 6. And 6 is a number of balance. 6 is a number of coming out of conflict, coming out of change and reaching a point of resolution. So I do feel like there is a point of resolution. Maybe the bad moon has already risen for some of you. I feel like it has, which is a part of why I wanted to call attention to where you were this time last year. The rain's coming. I don't know what that was, child. Did y'all hear that? Understand that bargaining is a part of grief. Okay, so we have another stage of grief here, bargaining. I'm hearing, please, baby, please, baby, please. Okay. Interesting. Bargaining is sort of reminding me of like begging with the universe. Let's read from the book. Number 24. This candle is giving off a lot of heat. Okay. This card presents itself to you today as the 3rd stage of grief, bargaining. Following a loss, we often find ourselves in a state of vulnerability with a constant desire to regain control, wondering what if and if only. That's so powerful. So powerful, especially when we do, you know, again, I'll go back to my example of where I was on this day, and even at this exact time I was on the brink of a loss. It was a loss that I caused. It was a tower that I initiated, and I surrendered to the universe. But there was also some bargaining amidst there. You know, is this the right choice? What if something bad happens? Again, that sense of impending doom, right? What if only? Bargaining is a sort of middle ground of grief as we begin to believe that we've lost something, but remain in denial that it's not coming back. I'm going to pause and let the rain do its thing. This is the impending doom, is it not? And here I chose to pause and move towards it rather than ignore it. So I don't have control over certain things. I can only control me, my reactions, my emotions, the candles going out. But it needs to rain, right? Can I control air like the avatar? That's funny, Rusty. Nope, can't control air. I keep waiting for my Matilda strengths to come in, but I've yet to gain those. It's an interesting dance. Waiting for the doom or choosing to keep going through it. Right? Do we just sit and wait for things to go terribly? Just sit and wait for things to fail because it's what we believe will happen? Or do we move towards it with curiosity and simply act on what's in our control? I'm going to keep reading. I love this. Instinctively, our minds get creative and begin to create scenarios because the denial still has a hold on us. This stage of grief can look like denial on steroids in some situations, and it can cause us to do and say things that others would label as crazy. Let's not start a fire. We don't need that kind of doom. Give me a second here. Okay. When we patiently nurture something and await its arrival, our investment holds depth. Ooh, that sentence is strong. I'm gonna read it again. When we patiently nurture something and await its arrival, our investment holds depth. Like a woman who cares for the baby in her womb, that investment will send her on a high like no other. In the same manner, losing such an investment will send her on a low like no other. The whirlwind caused by the loss may have her thinking the loss is her fault, believing that she still feels the baby kicking, wondering if she could have done anything differently, suggesting that the doctors failed in some way, or even refusing to do what is medically necessary moving forward. To an outsider, all of these what ifs likely seem irrational and detrimental to her progress. To the griever, however, this is the only way to rationalize the pain that she feels from the loss. It doesn't make any sense that something so precious that she put her all into could just be taken away as though it meant nothing. Something has to be off with everyone else's reality because this just doesn't make sense. So there's some sense of bargaining that either we've been working through, maybe working through this stage of grief for a while, or going back to it because they don't happen, in order, in any particular order. They happen in accordance with what our body needs and what our brain needs and how we individually process. But is bargaining holding you back from continuing to nurture that investment? Is your focus so distracted on the what ifs and the if onlys that you're missing your opportunity to continue to grow and build? Let's see what our journal prompt is going to be. The rain smells so good. It's happening in an interesting pattern too. So the prompt I have: trusting the process of this loss. How can I continue to focus on what needs my energy? Trusting the process of this loss. How can I continue to focus on what needs my energy? Pretty significant session today, and I knew it would be. I said it yesterday. I'm curious how it's impacted you guys who have joined. And the rain itself. Time to get inside. Until next time, friends.